This is a documentary that reveals the dark side of social media, specifically Telegram, where user information is supposedly kept completely confidential. However, this very confidentiality created opportunities for high-tech criminals, one of whom was involved in the Nth Room chat room case that shocked South Korea. How did the hunt for these devils unfold? All of this will be covered in the documentary recap, Cyber Hell Exposing Internet Horror. To understand the full story, we'll hear from reporter Kim Won of the Hankyoreh newspaper. It all started in Seoul on a weekend when Kim, while looking for a topic for his next article, received a notification from his newsroom about an email accusing someone of distributing child pornography. He was asked to investigate. Initially, Kim was a bit hesitant, partly because he didn't think such things could happen on Telegram, and partly because he doubted the accuser's motives. However, this has always been a highly topical subject, so Kim Won decided to take on the task. On another Sunday, he reopened the email, and what caught his eye was the perpetrator's information, along with 3 attached files containing sensitive images and even the IP address of the connected computer. According to the information, the perpetrator was a high school student. This could be a model student, or at least someone considered good compared to their peers. From this, Kim sensed the possibility that this was a major case. Soon after, the article about the incident was published overnight, but everything went beyond his control. In the following days, Kim continuously received many email responses, both positive and negative. Notably, one email contained a link to a chat group that was spreading personal information not only about Kim, but also about his family. At this point, Kim realized the severity of the problem. He began to feel stressed and anxious about what he was about to face, especially the search for his family's information with a reward that included the right to order slaves to take photos on demand. Upon learning of this, the newsroom formed an investigative and reporting team with Kim as the leader. Reporter Oh Yeon-seo, after hearing what happened to Kim, was very concerned about joining. But after much thought, she realized this was a good opportunity for development, so she temporarily set aside her worries to focus on gathering information. From what she learned, these individuals who threatened minors were very aggressive. They not only threatened victims with explicit photos they had taken, but also took photos in front of the victims' homes to increase pressure. Additionally, the reporting team received some tips indicating that what they knew was nothing compared to Baksa's chat room. After much effort, the reporters couldn't find a way to join until a major turning point occurred. Kim received an email from someone named Joker, who wanted to meet the reporter to exchange information about Baksa. After agreeing, the two parties met at a train station in Daegu to facilitate the meeting and information sharing. Both reporters arrived with the highest level of caution, as they weren't sure if the person was Baksa's associate or not. After a period of waiting, Joker finally appeared to talk at a coffee shop. Joker claimed to be there to report information because a friend of his was a victim of Baksa. This person provided the team with the link to join Baksa's group. After entering the group, the reporters noticed that all the uploaded photos were watermarked, a form of copyright marking to prevent theft or exploitation. Baksa targeted women seeking jobs or money. His tactic was to slowly approach them and promise job opportunities, mainly for modeling or selling clothes. He would then trick the victims into sending personal photos, including both discreet and revealing ones. After passing the body test, victims were asked to send personal information to complete their job applications, including their national ID cards. As soon as he had what he needed, Baksa immediately revealed his true colors, forcing victims to send more explicit photos. If they resisted, he would threaten to go to their homes. This was a psychologically crushing act, especially for young girls, and even more disgusting. Baksa made no distinction based on age, with some victims being very young. Those interviewed recalled that after watching those videos, they all felt a common sense of disgust and anger. The victims also showed signs of resistance, but no one could resist the psychological pressure and harassing messages from thousands of people in the group. So what was Baksa's motive, and what did he gain from these activities? To find the answer, the investigative team found articles about the Nth Room chat room and contacted the Flame News Hunting Group, the authors of those articles. Flame is a group of young people passionate about journalism with the desire to publicize information and warn the public. The article was the result of a long period of the group infiltrating the chat room using keywords related to violence against female students. The Flame group found the entrance to the chat room through AV Snoop, a website with a very normal interface operated by a character named Watchman. Watchman was also very enthusiastic about serving his customers, not hesitating to show very specific information about some victims in the numbered rooms. His sickening enthusiasm made the Flame Group unable to believe that this was happening in South Korea. A few hours later, a member of the website contacted the Flame Group and provided a link to the chat room on the condition that they change their avatar to an anime picture. Similar to Boxa's chat room, the images in the nth room were extremely disgusting. Most of the victims were very young girls, some even minors. At this point, the group had the key anonymous name of the nth room's owner, God. Unlike Boxa, God's method of entrapping victims was more sophisticated and well-planned. After identifying his prey, he would send a subtle threat that their explicit photos had been exposed, then send them a pre-prepared link. Once the victim clicked on the link, their information was completely in God's hands. The nth room gained another slave. Subsequently, the victim would be forced to follow God's instructions if they didn't want their personal information leaked. Realizing that this story had gone far beyond reporting, the Flame Group immediately reported it to the police to file a complaint about the intimidation. The Cybercrime Investigation Unit, after receiving the report, decided to ask the Flame Group to continue infiltrating to gather more information to serve as evidence for the investigation. After a while, the group discovered an anonymous account named Rabbit. Although Rabbit had only recently joined, he was quickly promoted to manager, overseeing a chat room with up to 1,000 members. Rabbit was very active in the chat room, continuously uploading images of girls without interruption. It seemed that Rabbit wanted to attract the attention of the chat room to himself, and he succeeded, at least from Flame's perspective. The young group approached Rabbit, then contacted the police and successfully arrested him. It seemed like this was the turning point to expose the truth, but in reality, Rabbit was just a worthless pawn, and so everything returned to focus on God. In fact, the chat room members were very curious about God's identity. Discussions constantly broke out. Many respected God, but some thought he had gone too far. The peak of the discussion was when God suddenly disappeared, leaving only messages like, "My mom won't let me use my phone anymore," or "My mom told me to go to bed." In this situation, the only thing the Flame Group and the Boxa investigative reporters could do was publish articles about their inhumane actions to inform the public about their crimes and methods of luring victims. At the same time, they wanted to alert media organizations to join the discussion and push the investigation deeper. However, Korean public opinion was quite indifferent. The Korean public viewed it as a common case of mistreatment of women and did not have much reaction. For the reporters, this was a bitter failure. Some even mocked them, saying that it was the first chat room to be reported. And ironically, it was precisely because of that article that the number of chat room members increased. In response to the righteous side, Boxa published previously unreleased photos of a victim in the chat room with the title Hans Victim. This was an act of defiance against the infiltrating journalists, showing that they would not hesitate to confront them directly. This action truly unnerved the investigative team. They even considered stopping because they were exhausted and disoriented, not knowing what they were fighting for, and so they left the chat room. Just when it seemed like everything was over, a turning point came 2 months later. Two producers from JBTC's Spotlight and SBS considered covering the 18-plus chat rooms in their programs. To fully investigate the matter, the program's producers and writers contacted reporter Kim and received the most authentic insights into his recent journey. In addition, they also investigated Boxa's chat room themselves. Interestingly, Boxa proactively contacted the program with a very defiant attitude. It seemed that his victory in the previous round made him confident this time, or perhaps he had strong faith in Telegram. When answering the program's inquiries, Boxa described countless different identities, such as owning a private detective agency, trafficking contraband on the dark web, and even running a gang abroad. He even claimed to be in Cambodia to SBS. But when pressed, he became evasive. The climax was when Boxa declared that if the TV stations dared to broadcast the story, a victim would self-destruct at the SBS building or self-immolate at their home, along with a statement that he would not lose. To verify this individual's credibility, SBS contacted reporter Kim and received the answer that Boxa wouldn't dare to do it. With this confidence, SBS broadcast the program with the aim of calling on public opinion to participate in the investigation and urging the police to quickly bring this criminal group to justice. Immediately after, a video circulated in the chat room of a victim with a plastic bag over her head, her hands tied to a door, and a message that she would self-destruct at the SBS TV station. This action showed that Baksa was capable of manipulating his victims. Not stopping there, he continued to threaten JBTC, stating that if they made a similar move to SBS, a similar gift would be sent, along with the victim's identity. In this tense situation, the Flame Group contacted JBTC to advise them to reconsider. It was truly a difficult decision, but ultimately the program was aired along with Baksa's video. Those responsible for the program later felt guilty for creating another victim, but they received empathy from the victim, which somewhat eased their discomfort. Baksa thought his psychological trick had succeeded again, but he was wrong. This was his foolish move. After hearing about a victim who would self-destruct at the SBS newsroom, the investigative agency officially stepped in, albeit quite late. After comparing and analyzing the photos Baksa posted, through a bracelet the victim wore and letters in a book, the police identified the victim and timely prevented the tragedy. When they entered the victim's room, they found the things that appeared in the video, such as the red string and the black plastic bag, along with notes that read, "Go Baksa," that the girl was forced to write. When found, the victim was very frightened and helpless to resist Baksa's demands. The police immediately reassured both the victim and her parents, making them feel safe and protected. Returning to the investigation journey of the Spotlight program while infiltrating the chat room, they discovered that Baksa had earned a considerable amount of money from selling videos and buying tickets to enter the rooms, an estimated 100 million won. All transactions had to use cryptocurrency. After this information was revealed, the chat room members began to panic, fearing they would be arrested. Baksa appeared and reassured his customers that he was fine and changed his operating methods to avoid detection by opening more cryptocurrency receiving accounts. This was precisely a foolish move. The reporters took screenshots and sent everything to the authorities. The police realized that the ultimate goal of the perpetrator was to get the money, so they only needed to track the flow of money from cryptocurrency to real money to trace Baksa. The police continuously conducted searches and found the ID number K8GOOSE. Based on the information gathered from the chat room that Baksa shared, specifically that he managed a private detective agency, the police cross-referenced this with their list of scam IDs and found two individuals named Kim and Lee. They are currently serving sentences for selling contraband and weapons via Telegram. These two played the role of withdrawing and transferring money in those cases. It can be understood that in those cases, Kim and Lee followed the instructions of the person using ID K8GOOSE to open a private detective agency, but Kim and Lee were not involved in the Baksa case. This past collaboration suggests that the two parties had a close relationship or one of them was Baksa. During the investigation, the police also tracked down another individual named Buddha. This person was somehow caught in a case of stalking a minor female student. According to this person's testimony, he was just a lower-level operative, playing a role similar to Lee and Kim. However, it was from this area of money-handling pawns that the police were able to pinpoint a location that could lead to Baksa, a fire extinguisher box in an apartment building in Seoul. After a month of continuous stakeouts, the police discovered a suspicious girl. This individual would take a train to a distant location on specific days and meet a man. The police continued to follow him to another location and saw the suspect meet another person. However, this new person did not receive any money. From this, it can be confirmed that the person who received money from the girl was Baksa. Immediately, an investigative team of over 40 people was dispatched to monitor the suspect's every move. If they acted rashly and without calculation, Baksa would erase all evidence, so the police had to wait for the right moment. And that moment came when Baksa was walking home with his father. The police raided and apprehended him. Although arrested, Baksa stood defiantly in front of dozens of media cameras, showing no remorse whatsoever for what he had done. So, one chat room was dismantled. The next target would be God and his nth room. After 11 months of silence, God made a comeback in his chat room. He requested to meet the PD after SBS's program aired. It seemed that the program said something that offended him, specifically Baksa's words to his senior. One day, the producer of SBS received a message from the Red Group, a mysterious hacker team tracking God. It was clear that this hacker group completely outwitted the sick individual by successfully luring him using the same method he used on his victims. After a white hat hacker analyzed the data, God's IP address was found, which led to the identification of the type of phone he used and his location in Anseong. This person was quite cunning, knowing how to hide himself by using refurbished phones from a family scrapyard, using other people's routers, and utilizing free Wi-Fi in public places. He even used a signal booster to connect remotely to deceive authorities about his location. When the chat room cases came to light, God took action to destroy evidence. He uploaded all victim videos to Mega and shared the access links in the chat room. The Mega accounts were all registered with one-time use emails, so he didn't even remember the passwords. The original videos were transferred to SD cards and destroyed periodically. However, God had a screen-recorded video of his criminal activity, and that was the unexpected evidence that incriminated him. When they arrived at the suspect's family scrapyard, the police collected several phones showing signs of reuse, and they found one with similar apps. During the struggle, the police questioned the suspect about the phone. He hesitated for a moment, then bowed his head and confessed to the crime. Standing before the media was a God who looked like a middle school-aged boy. Similar to Baksa, God also appeared indifferent and showed no remorse, but they both had to bow to the law and justice with sentences proportionate to their crimes. Impulsivity is not a valid excuse for the actions these two individuals committed. It is clear that they developed a distorted mindset towards women, especially minor girls. In October 2021, the court sentenced Baksa to 42 years in prison. For God, the court sentenced him to 34 years in prison in November 2021. The film also adds that a total of 3,757 people involved in the Nth Room chat room were arrested by December 2020. The film showed us the potential dangers in cyberspace. Anyone can become a victim of these criminals. If you or someone you know has been affected by events caused by others that have led to mental health issues, please seek assistance from reputable facilities or professionals for appropriate and necessary support. What do you think about these chat rooms and the reactions of the public and South Korean police to these incidents? Feel free to comment below. Don't forget to subscribe to Recom Movie so you don't miss any videos. See you next time.